Hey everyone, this is Asia with the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce. Just wanted to touch base with everyone and let them know what the results of the vote were last night with the City Council regarding business license fees. It's been an interesting discussion and an interesting evolution of the discussion. At first, for those of you that haven't been following along, there was a new state law in 2018 that kind of changed some of the rules about business licensing fees. And so the City of West Jordan commissioned a study in an effort to comply with the new law. And in the study, you know, they did some research on disproportionate fees and wanted to find the maximum amount that they could charge for business license fees by law, and then kind of chose like a small percentage of those fees, of that maximum allowable amount, and charge a percentage of that maximum allowable amount that was determined by class based on risk factors, and really ended up being kind of a hardship on smaller businesses, the way that it was allocated. So the Chamber of Commerce obviously was very vocal in opposing the disproportionate fees and the way that the study was done and the way that those were handled. You know, during the process, city staff and council members continually said, you know, it's not about revenue, it's not about generating revenue, but all of the conversations and the scenarios really kind of boil down to the bottom line. How does charging 5% of disproportionate fees affect the amount of revenue that we would get? And you know, how does 10% affect the amount of revenue that we would get? And then also kind of looking at a handful of businesses and seeing how it would impact various businesses. And then, you know, that's kind of how the whole conversation was going in city council meeting, was, you know, looking at that revenue amount, and trying to reduce the amount of disproportionate fees within the various fee structures that they proposed, and how that would impact the bottom line of the budget. And it was still just really inequitable between the different sizes of businesses and the different business classes, that the way the disproportionate fees were set up were just really unfair to a lot of different businesses. And so then, you know, later in the conversation, just kind of recently towards the end here, they really started to bring out the fact that they were really trying to get that revenue to pay for a couple of police officers, and to hire more police officers. And so that was good to know, that was the goal of generating revenue, that at some point that was going to pay for more police officers. So that was good information. And then we kind of started to investigate, you know, whether or not the state law was really kind of unclear. And so we contacted several, our board members reached out to the senator that sponsored the bill to change that law, and you know, tried to get some more background information on what they actually intended to happen there. And it looks like the law was really kind of unclear as to, and didn't really match up with, oops, I guess I should have turned my sound off on my phone before I started this video, sorry. So really trying to match what the legislature was trying to do with the wording of the law, because, you know, when the attorneys looked at it, they interpreted it completely different. And fortunately, a couple of the council members did reach out to Senator Anderegg about that bill, and he shared with them that, you know, he was considering submitting some rewording for that law to kind of clarify and make it a little more clear what the legislature intended to do with business license fees. So what I heard from the city council last night, there was a couple of council members that were concerned about, you know, maybe having to you know, set if they were to vote in the disproportionate fees in that manner right now, and if the law changed, would they have to then invest a lot of time and money in re-entering all of that into the system and resetting that up? So there was a little bit of a concern about that. So what they ended up doing was they kind of ran some scenarios through their spreadsheet with disproportionate fees or without disproportionate fees, excuse me, still having the base fee and the per employee fee, as has been the system that's been used in the past, is kind of like an annual fee and a per employee fee. So they kind of ran some scenarios through a spreadsheet that way to see if they could come up with that amount that they needed for those 2 additional officers, with just using the base fee and the per employee fee instead of using the disproportionate fee. And it actually worked out just fine. What they ended up doing was using a $155 annual base fee and $7 per employee fee, which I felt was very reasonable. You know, it's not that much more than what the businesses are currently paying, but it still generates the amount of revenue that the city said that they needed to hire these 2 additional officers. So we feel like that was a much better approach than you know, saying, you know, we need to pay for a couple of new additional officers, rather than just, you know, complying with the law and taking a small percentage of what we could, what's allowable by law. So I felt like that part of the discussion was that knowing that it's to pay for two additional officers, you know, really helped the conversation, of course. You know, and what I hope that we've learned from this experience is that it is possible to come to an agreement, a happy medium, something where the city can achieve their goals in a way that doesn't hurt the businesses. And so I hope what we've learned from this process is that it is possible, if we continue to communicate and share concerns and goals. The goals would have been very helpful early on in the process if we knew what they were trying to get to. That would probably have been really helpful for us to help them figure out a way to get there. You know, running the scenarios through the spreadsheet and thinking, you know, a little bit more creatively was really helpful. And but what I really hope what we've learned from this whole process is the possibility that we can come to a workable solution to reach the city's goals that doesn't hurt businesses. It's my sincere hope that we can be able to do these things, that we can come to the table as a business community and as city officials, come to the table and discuss these things offline, and come to that workable solution, come to that compromise where the city is able to get what they want without killing the businesses. We can come to that happy medium and move forward and present those ideas to the city council for approval, rather than you know, taking these arguments to a public forum and having everybody observe the whole process. So my hope in the future would be that that the business community and the city officials can have these types of discussions offline. And yeah, it's arduous. It takes, I mean, we've been having this discussion for like 6 months now, but all of our discussion has been, not all the discussion, but the bulk of the discussion has been online and very, very transparent, which is good. But I think in the long run, having the full discussion publicly probably ultimately did more damage than good. So what I would like to see is have those discussions, those hard discussions. It's difficult. The city has some difficult challenges that they're facing, and you know, there's a delicate balance that they're going to have to do moving forward in the future. And if we can have those hard discussions, those you know, those difficult discussions, and then maybe get some creative juices flowing in a brainstorming type session offline, until we can come to an agreeable solution to bring to City Council to present as in a united way, a united front in support of each other. I think that would probably be the best way to handle these sorts of situations going forward. So that would be my hope of what we've learned from that scenario. So, and speaking of difficult situations that are coming up, you know, the city's going to have a lot of challenges that impact businesses. You know, you've got utility rates and sign ordinances and you know, regulations and building permits. I mean, there's always a situation coming up where the city has goals that they need to achieve, and I hope that we can work together with the business community to see if we can mitigate some of the damages to the business community as the city tries to reach their goals for a better quality of life for the citizens and the businesses, everybody who works and plays and shops here. So, so yeah, I'm relieved for the small businesses here in the city of West Jordan. So you can rest assured that as of now, the business license fees will be a $155 annual base fee and $7 per employee. With and I think they also threw in a $2,000 cap on that, but I don't think there's very many businesses that would hit that cap, and the ones that would are already pretty near that cap anyway. So I think it's a very workable solution. It took us a long time to get there. I think it probably could have gone a lot faster. We would have got there a lot faster if the discussion was a little more offline. But I'm really happy with where we ended up, and the business community, the businesses that I've spoken to are happy with the outcome and feel good about it. So congratulations. I think we kind of came to a win-win situation in the end. The business community won, and the city got what they wanted to. So all's well that ends well.